It's 4 a.m. on June 4th, 1942. Somewhere in the vast, dark waters north of Midway Atoll, 4 Japanese aircraft carriers steam forward in tight formation. Vice Admiral Chuichi Nagumo stands on the bridge of his flagship, the carrier Akagi, watching the first wave of strike aircraft roar off the deck and vanish into the pre-dawn sky. His pilots are the best in the world. His carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Hiryu, and Soryu, form the deadliest naval strike force ever assembled. Nagumo has every reason for confidence. 6 months earlier, this same fleet crippled the American battle line at Pearl Harbor. Today, he believes, will bring an even greater victory. But Nagumo does not know the terrible truth. The Americans are waiting for him. Thousands of miles away, in a windowless basement at Pearl Harbor, a team of Navy codebreakers led by Commander Joseph Rochefort has spent weeks cracking the Japanese naval code. They know Nagumo's plan. They know his targets. They know almost exactly when he will strike. Admiral Chester Nimitz, commander of the Pacific Fleet, has taken an enormous gamble based on their intelligence. He has sent 3 aircraft carriers, USS Enterprise, USS Hornet, and the hastily repaired USS Yorktown, to lie in wait northeast of Midway, hidden and ready to ambush the Japanese fleet the moment it appears. They have no idea we're here, Nimitz says quietly to his staff. Let's make sure it stays that way. Aboard Akagi, the first wave of Japanese planes strikes Midway Island hard, but Nagumo's pilots return with troubling news. The airfield is damaged, but not destroyed. A second strike will be needed to finish the job. Nagumo faces a fateful decision. His reserve aircraft are currently armed with torpedoes, ready in case American ships appear. But if he wants to hit Midway again, he must rearm them with bombs instead. Change the ordnance, Nagumo orders. Prepare for a second strike on the island. Down in the hangar decks, Japanese crews scramble to swap torpedoes for bombs, a slow and dangerous process. Just as the work begins, a scout plane radios back urgent news. Sir, 10 enemy ships spotted, bearing 040, distance 240 miles. Nagumo's stomach drops. American ships? But what kind? He needs to know if carriers are among them. The scout plane's reply comes agonizingly slow. Minutes tick by like hours. Finally, the report arrives. Enemy force accompanied by what appears to be an aircraft carrier. Nagumo now faces an impossible choice. Rearm the bombers back to torpedoes to attack the American carrier, or launch the bomb-armed planes immediately against Midway. Changing ordnance again will take precious time the fleet may not have. Reluctantly, Nagumo orders the rearming reversed. Down in the hangars, chaos erupts as crews fitfully swap bombs for torpedoes once more, working as fast as human hands can move. Bombs are stacked carelessly along the decks and in the hangars, waiting to be stowed away. It is an extraordinarily dangerous gamble, but Nagumo believes he has no other choice. Meanwhile, high above the Japanese fleet, American torpedo bombers from Hornet and Enterprise begin their attack runs. Squadron after squadron dives toward the carriers, flying low and slow across the water. Japanese Zero fighters swarm down from above like hawks, tearing the American formations apart. Torpedo Squadron 8 from Hornet presses forward regardless, flying directly into a wall of enemy fire. One by one, their aircraft are shot from the sky. Of the 15 planes that begin the attack, none survive. Not a single torpedo finds its mark. It is a devastating, seemingly pointless sacrifice. But their sacrifice is not in vain. As the Japanese fighters descend to low altitude to slaughter the torpedo bombers, they leave the skies above the fleet completely undefended. High above, unnoticed by nearly everyone, 3 squadrons of American dive bombers arrive at exactly this moment. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey, leading planes from Enterprise, has been searching desperately for the Japanese fleet, running low on fuel, running out of options. Then, far below, he spots it, the wake of a lone Japanese destroyer, racing to rejoin the main fleet. McCluskey follows the wake, and there, spread out beneath him, are the 4 Japanese carriers, decks packed with aircraft, fuel lines, and stacked bombs, completely unprotected from above. Attack! Attack! McCluskey radios, diving his squadron down toward Kaga and Akagi. At almost the same instant, dive bombers from Yorktown arrive and target Soryu. The Japanese carriers, caught utterly by surprise, have no fighter cover left to defend themselves. Bombs scream downward and slam into their flight decks. Aboard Kaga, sailors look up in horror as American dive bombers appear seemingly from nowhere. Enemy aircraft, directly above. Someone screams, but there is no time to react. Bombs tear through the flight deck and detonate among the stacked ordnance and fueled aircraft below. The ship convulses with secondary explosions, one after another, as bombs and fuel ignite in a chain reaction of destruction. Fires rage out of control within minutes. On Akagi, Nagumo watches in stunned disbelief as bombs strike his own flagship. One bomb detonates in the middle of the hangar deck, igniting the mass of fuel and munitions stored there for the aborted rearming operation. The explosion is catastrophic. Fires spread through the ship faster than the crew can contain them. Nagumo's staff urges him to abandon ship. He refuses, gripping the railing, unwilling to leave his burning flagship. "Admiral, we must go now!" an aide shouts. Finally, reluctantly, Nagumo is persuaded to transfer his flag to a nearby cruiser, leaving Akagi to burn. Soryu suffers a similar fate. 3 bombs strike her flight deck within moments of each other, igniting fires among her fully fueled and armed aircraft. Explosions rock the ship violently, and within 20 minutes, the order comes to abandon ship. In the span of just 6 minutes, 3 of Nagumo's 4 carriers have been transformed from the pride of the Japanese Navy into blazing infernos. Only Hiryu remains untouched, and her commander, Rear Admiral Taman Yamaguchi, is determined to strike back. "Launch everything we have," he orders. Japanese dive bombers and torpedo planes scramble off Hiryu's deck and race toward the American fleet, seeking revenge. They find Yorktown and strike her hard, 3 bombs tearing into her flight deck and engine spaces, followed soon after by 2 torpedoes that flood her engine rooms and bring her to a dead stop. Yorktown's crew fights desperately to save their ship, but she is critically wounded, forced to be abandoned, though she remains stubbornly afloat for now. But Yorktown's sacrifice buys American forces the information they need. Scout planes soon locate Hiryu, the last operational Japanese carrier. American dive bombers launch immediately, converging on the lone target with grim determination. Hiryu's captain watches the incoming aircraft with a growing dread. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouts, but it is too late. 4 bombs strike home, tearing through the flight deck and igniting fires deep within the ship. Within hours, Hiryu joins her sister carriers in flames, doomed and beyond saving. By nightfall, the once mighty Japanese carriers' strike force lies in ruins. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, and Hiryu, the very ships that led the attack on Pearl Harbor, are all sinking or scuttled, along with hundreds of irreplaceable pilots and aircrew. Admiral Yamamoto, commander of the entire Japanese fleet, receives the news in stunned silence aboard his battleship far to the west. He orders a general retreat, canceling the invasion of Midway entirely. The battle that was supposed to crush American naval power in a single stroke has instead delivered a catastrophic, unrecoverable blow to Japan's carrier fleet. The mistake that doomed Nagumo's fleet was not a single decision, but a chain of them, compounded by fatal delays. The order to rearm aircraft not once, but twice. The failure to launch scout planes early enough to detect the American carriers in time. The decision to keep bombs and fuel exposed on the hangar decks during the chaotic rearming process. Any one of these choices alone might have been survivable. Together, they created the perfect conditions for disaster, a fleet caught at its single most vulnerable moment, decks packed with explosive fuel and ordnance, with almost no time to react. Yorktown, though critically damaged, remains afloat for 2 more days, her crew and salvage teams fighting valiantly to save her. Tragically, a Japanese submarine finds her before repairs can be completed, delivering the final blows that send her to the bottom. Yet her sacrifice, along with the extraordinary bravery of pilots who flew directly into overwhelming enemy fire, tipped the scales of history in America's favor. The Battle of Midway stands as one of the most decisive naval battles ever fought. In the span of a single day, the balance of power in the Pacific shifted permanently. Japan would never again field 4 fleet carriers together in a single operation. The initiative, seized so dramatically at Pearl Harbor, now passed irrevocably to the United States. What began as a Japanese gamble to finish off the American Pacific Fleet ended instead as the turning point of the entire war. A victory built not on overwhelming force, but on codebreakers in a windowless room, pilots who flew to near certain death, and a single, fatal Japanese mistake made in the chaos and confusion of battle.